This is Michael Trucco coming to you live. Well, you know. You want to know about Hush, you want to know about Midnight Mass, obviously both from the extraordinary mind of Mike Flanagan. This is something that I've learned over the years. This is my advice to you. This is what I like to share with people. My advice to you, don't go out there. That's my advice. Don't go out there. Lots of love, lots of hugs. Be well. Take care.
They've conquered the big screen. Now, get ready for the spin-off sure to send chills down your spine. It's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin in Don't Go Out There, the series.
Welcome back, everybody, to DGOT, the series. We really appreciate y'all listening. We hope y'all have been enjoying these series reviews. I know we have. It's been a lot of fun. Just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgooutthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on the website. All of our episodes and interviews, if you want to check those out. We've done some incredible interviews in the past. Go check them out there in a specific tab by themselves so you don't have to scroll through hundreds of episodes on Apple or Spotify, etc. We also have our store if you want to grab a shirt, a mouse pad, a hat, all that good stuff. We'd love to see your pictures, rep your favorite podcast. And Shan's Etsy page is also attached if you want to grab a tumbler. All of our social media links are on there as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. And the last thing I want to shout out on our website is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. If you want to support us, help us pay the bills, as we say. Or if there's a movie you want us to review, that option is available as well. Just check out our website, don'tgooutthere.com. Also, if you haven't noticed, we've recently joined the Believe Network. So there's some ads on our program now. But if you want ad-free content, go check us out on Blood Donors. The ad-free episodes will be available there. We appreciate your support. We finished with The Walking Dead Season 2 last week. We are taking on a new series this week. This is Brother Brian's pick, and I'll let him announce why he picked it and his thoughts on the first two episodes. Go ahead and kick us off.
Well, if you're watching this, we're going back to the Flanagan verse. We picked Midnight Mass. I've only seen this once, and it's been a few years, but from what I remember, this is still my favorite of the Flanagan verse series. Movies-wise, I know he's been hit or miss on this podcast with Oculus, Hush, Dr. Sleep. They're all divisive, but I've stayed consistent. I've liked all of them. In fact, this was originally going to be a movie, but I'm glad we got this little mini series here. It's a 10 out of 10 for me, so we'll see if that holds up by the end of these 7 episodes, because I realized real quick, this is almost like a first-time watch, and I only remember the main mystery of the show, so not much anything else. He actually has been on record saying that this was a passion project of his, stemming out of his own Roman Catholic upbringing, and I think you can tell that there was a little extra care taken with this one. So yeah, I loved it. And in fact, I would call it a midnight masterpiece.
All right, I'll go next. I have not seen Midnight Mass yet. It's one I've been wanting to watch. I'm glad you picked it, Brian, because I do like Mike Flanagan. I pretty much like everything he's done. I didn't shit on Dr. Sleep. I gave it I gave it 5 1/4. I think that's not hating on it. But anywho, I thought the first 2 episodes were a little slow, but I know it's building something. So, I'm not giving up hope on it, because everyone I've talked to about this show says how great it is. And I don't mind slow burns as long as it has a payoff. So I'm excited to cover this series. It is intriguing. I don't know a lot. I don't know, the new father. I'm not really familiar with his game, really. I'm not really familiar with Riley, but they have interesting characters that I'm already invested in. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
So I mentioned all the way back before my lengthy hiatus from the series show that we do here, we did Hill House, and I said that Midnight Mass was my favorite of the Flanagan anything that he's done, because believe it or not, all the way back when we did Oculus, I still lived in Florida, so that's a long time ago. I shit on that movie because that movie sucks. And I won't even talk about Dr. Sleep. I'm not allowed. I've been forbidden on this show to give my opinion on Dr. Sleep because for some reason, someone pulls up tape, even though everyone else changes their mind on this show. But anywho, this is my favorite thing that Mike Flanagan has done. And honestly, these first 2 episodes were a reminder why. And maybe it's because some of my upbringing, with the Catholic Church, maybe it touched a nerve for me in that way. That, I think that's part of it for sure. But I also think that it's just so well written and acted. Like these first 2 episodes have, and it's a slow build, like Nico mentioned. So definitely stick around. Like it gets more intense, but the story here is really tight. Like I like Riley's arc. I like Aaron. Like all deep and rich characters. Joe is, and I say it in my scene by scene, one of the better characters written that I've seen in a long time. And this series, I put it out on X today, and then I'll shut up, has one of the best villains of all time in this series, hands down. And if you hadn't figured that out in the first 2 episodes, Nico, you will. Bev is one of the best villains of all time because I'm someone that likes heels. Okay? I like heels in my wrestling. I like bad guys in movies a lot of times. Bev makes... I'm not even going to describe the things I would want to do to that character to hurt her. So, no, come on. Don't go there with it. I'm being serious. Bev sucks. So, anyway, that's a tangent I didn't mean to go on. Long story short, great acting, great writing. Very excited to talk about it in case you can't tell. I think it's Flanagan's best stuff.
I agree. This is my favorite Flanagan project. I watched this when it first came out, when it first dropped on Netflix back in, 2021. Watched it with my girlfriend at the time, my ex-girlfriend. Sidebar, I miss you and I still love you. But I think it's really good. The story is gripping. The acting and dialogue are much better than in Hill House to me, respectfully. And yeah, I thought these first 2 episodes, the first one is a lot of establishing. We don't get a whole lot in that one, but then the second one, it starts to pick up with the freaky stuff. And yeah, I enjoy it a lot.
All right. I'm doing the scene by scene for the first episode, so let's go ahead and get into it. The episode starts with title card and a groovy little score. However, we're at the scene of a very bad car crash. We see a woman having CPR performed on her as a handcuffed Riley watches on. He asks the officer if she's going to be okay, but her head rolls over and he sees the damage and he recites the Lord's Prayer. The officer asks him to ask God why the kids always die but the drunk fucks always survive, which is a good question, honestly. We're in court now, and Riley accepts his sentencing of 4 to 10 years in prison. He checks his mail containing pictures of his family and opens the Bible from his mother. He tries to sleep, but the prison is quite loud. He sees the dead woman from the scene in his cell and stares stoically. 4 years later, we see overhead shots of Crockett Island, population 127. Mama Annie is on the phone with Riley, and Ed sighs, saying he knows the boat schedule. Warren tells his parents he's leaving as Ed avoids the call. Seems a bit of dysfunction going on in this family. Annie tells Warren no drinking and to make curfew. Warren takes off on his bike, passing by Aaron's house, who waves. We see a sign at the St. Patrick's Cathedral. Mass resumes on Sunday with the priest's arrival. Ooker meets up with Warren as Ooker gets racist, calling Ali Aladdin. Bowl is skeptical of Ali being around with the sheriff being his dad, but he confirms fuck the sheriff as he gives him the drugs. They invite Lisa, but she declines. She's not the drug type, but she also ain't a snitch and goes inside to eat. A man pulls the trunk from the ferry inside, and we hear a knocking from inside it as he removes the lock. Cut back to the trio of boys who take a rowboat out into the water in some ripping-ass current. They make it to another patch of land as some giant winged creature flies over them as they pass through a path full of stray cats. They talk about buried bodies washing ashore as the fellows do some of the marijuana as we keep hearing cats meowing in the bushes. The cats start freaking out, and Warren shines his light over to the bushes, and a large creature with glowing eyes sneaks away. Brian, that's opening set of scenes. What'd you think, fellows?
Hello, fellow kids. Very impactful cold open. Especially, not to date the show with anybody that would even remember it, but we just had this exact situation with a DUI killing someone a few days ago in our little small town. So, that made it even more, honestly, impactful for me to personally on this watch. The shots of that girl, played by Ebony Booth, laying on the road with that Neil Diamond song playing and the police lights reflecting off of her body, just unbelievable camera work there. Fun fact, the voice of the judge that sentences Riley is Carla Gugino, Olivia Crane from The Hill House. But speaking of imagery and sound design, when Riley hits that bed in his cell and the whole camera starts to rotate and then the sounds from the prison are fading out and we see the body of Tara Beth, again, I just can't say this enough about what Flanagan does. I mean, it's very similar imagery used from Bly Manor with the Headlight Man, I think it was called. And, that's one of the things I really appreciate from Flanagan is he's always character first, then scares. And yeah, I mean, he will give you the scary imagery, but it's always connected in some way to the characters, whether that's their internal struggles or whatever. I think that makes it so much more impactful. So I'm immediately sucked in here even before this time jump. And the rest of this is just a lot of, like Dustin mentioned, character introductions. So, even a very unrecognizable, at least to me, Henry Thomas as Riley's father. We get some crazy person showing up with a chest that may seem out of place on first watch. And, us getting to know the island a little bit, which we do, a little bit more in the next set of scenes, but fantastic open. And yeah, I do get that complaint that the show seems a little slow at first, absolutely. But once you see it all, like the next watch through, especially, is so much better because all this character development is needed.
So I was going to say, I think with the benefit of this rewatch, yeah, this first episode is slow, but because I know what happens, I think I actually like this episode better than episode 2 because it really does. It was like dipping my whole foot back in the water instead of just my toe. Oh yeah, this is this and this is this and this is this. So, like Dustin and Brian even, I really only watched it when it first came out on Netflix. So like it's been that long, which is 4 years now. So it was nice to kind of revisit that. And I think this is a great opening set of scenes. I could not imagine being in Riley's situation at all. Like that would haunt me for the rest of my days. That was really crazy to watch. And I do like that Flanagan treats it with care, right? Like he does a good job of putting blame on Riley for his actions, but also, still making him a sympathetic figure, which I think I think that's handling it with care, and I would have written it the same if it were me. So I think there's a lot of blame to go around. He does the punishment for his crime, obviously, and that, the 4 years honestly feels light. I don't know what jurisdiction this was in, but that feels a little light compared to what some people get normally for these. But again, spends 4 years, does the punishment for his crime. So I like that they laid that groundwork there, and they lay the lot of the groundwork in this one scene that doesn't even have Riley in it. Right. I mean, and by the way, shout out to Zach Gilford, Riley, who's Matt Saracen on Friday Night Lights, QB star / backup QB / wide receiver, state championship winning quarterbacks, what I'd know him as, by God. And he takes care of his grandma. So good for Matt Saracen finding himself here, I guess. But again, they lay the groundwork in this one scene where mom's on the phone, right? They let you know that dad is on the outs with Riley because of what's happened. Ashamed of him, not proud of him, right? He's clearly a mama's boy as well. They throw the religious aspect in there early here, and you get dad's cough. So something's up with dad now too. So like they do a lot of connective tissue in this one scene where they're kind of opening up a lot of plots that play out later in the year with dad being sick and dad and Riley being on the outs and, mom kind of taking his side, and he, later on he takes advantage of that, and religion and that whole aspect. It all happens in this phone call scene. I love it. And I love the setting on Crockett Island a lot. This place looks so small. You can damn near see the ocean from anywhere you stand on it. I thought it was a really cool setting, very unique, not something that I'm used to, watching anything on. Anytime you get an island, it's like tropical or, Gilligan's Island or Castaway, but like this is so different, and I really liked it. I'm a bitch because one thing I'm not going to do is canoe in the dark like this at night with multiple people. Nope. And nope. Can't. You'll never catch me. Last thing I have here, I fucking hate cat noises. I'm sure we have a lot of great people on this show that listen and like cats, and that's nice, but I hate cats personally, and I hate the noises they make. They annoy the fuck out of me. Of course you like cats, Nico. Go ahead.
You just kind of talk about your wife like that? That's wild, bro. You hate the noises she makes?
No. Her name's Catherine, you see.
Oh, okay. Great opening shot of the Jesus fish on the car and then panning out, see the carnage. I thought that was really well done. And so was the way his backstory was shot. It establishes how heavy the situation is and, that he sees flashback visions, but it doesn't take up half the episode. So I thought that was very efficient. Then they established very early and clearly that not everyone is jumping for joy for him to come home. Looks like a strained relationship. Dad doesn't want to talk. Brother acts like he couldn't care less. So I think that was well done. Typical teenager stuff with Warren and his friends and a typical horror scene of sitting around in a circle outside swapping ghost stories, but it's fine. The glowing eyes appearing as well was well done as well. They're not looking from the jump there, and then the head whips towards the camera before creeping off. That was very effective. It's too early to tell, honestly, but it was enough to make me not give up on it, because a lot of times I lose interest very quick in a show that I'm starting. This one grabbed me.
Riley is on the ferry to Crockett Island with Mama Annie waiting on him. She hugs her boy and says, "Let's go get him fed." He asks about Dad, who isn't present, but Dad doesn't have soft hands, brother. He's at work, but I think it's more of just a relationship strain. Bev asks about Pruitt being on board, but he's not there. Dr. Sarah is doing an ultrasound on Aaron, and everything looks good for 20 weeks, except for a little bleeding. They notice Riley is back, and they feel bad for Annie. Dr. Sarah's mom enters the room, who mistakes Aaron for Peggy, but is taken back to her room. Annie says hey to Sheriff passing by the town store / sheriff's office, little town here. Sheriff wakes Joe up abruptly, but at least offers him some coffee. Joe is surprised he got locked up for attempted breaking and entering. Sheriff catches him up on his fantasies. Albatross or bad luck to kill a seabird vibes. Bev snaps on Sheriff over the dog snapping at her. She walks away frustrated, but the two men call her a meanie. Joe walks away with the dog, but Sheriff knows he'll be back soon. Annie tells Riley of the neighbors leaving. They're not even trying to sell anymore. They just want to go. Riley hesitantly goes inside, noticing his room has been used as a somewhat storage room. He's upset his dad didn't show up, and Mom makes reasoning he's working. Fishing's been tough since the fuel spill. Sheriff and Mayor meet with town folks over a storm on the way. Bev pipes up, telling Sheriff the church and rec center are used for storm shelters. Scenic visuals take us to dinner at the Flint house. Riley must go to monthly AA meetings on the mainland. Riley is surprised Aaron is back and teaching school. Warren jokes about her having sex before coming back to the island since she's pregnant now. Riley is shocked he must go to church. He's also shocked Father Pruitt is traveling since he's almost 80 years old. Ed finally speaks up out of frustration, hearing Riley say he was only in it for the chicks, being an altar boy. Pop says he's going to church regardless of how he feels as he walks away from the dinner table. Bev works on the church sign and knocks on the Monsignor's door. She assumes he's home and sees the giant trunk in the room. She keeps talking until an unknown person enters the room. All right, Brian, it's the next set of scenes. What do you think?
Yeah, so another thing I think Flanagan does better than anyone else in the game right now is atmosphere. From the very moment that we step foot on Crockett Island, which, by the way, everything about the island, including the upwards, it all points to being based on Tangier Island and Chesapeake Bay, which it's solidified, I think, by the two most prominent family names on that island being Crockett and Pruitt. From the moment we step foot on the island, it feels very 30 Days of Night-ish. You immediately get the small town feel, the isolation of being cut off from the mainland. I think just that setting becomes a character in itself for the show. That whole ominous feeling that you get as soon as Riley gets there, it's gray, it's run down. The Sturge basically telling Miss Keene, "Fuck you," with her "must have missed him in the crowd" line. I thought that made me laugh. Samantha Schloyan, I think you mentioned it, Mike, plays this Karen, for lack of a better term, very well. And if you remember, she was Sarah in Hush. She also plays a pretty bitchy Dr. Blake in Grey's Anatomy too, which admittedly I've seen too many seasons of, if I'm being honest. But someone you will absolutely also not recognize is Alexandra Esso as the old lady Mrs. Gunning. She was Wendy in Dr. Sleep and Charlotte in Bly Manor, born in 1992. So this is very heavily made up here. Joe may be my favorite character, though. Obviously, Mr. Dudley from the Hill House, but just calling the sheriff Sharif, obviously, I assumed it was a stab at him being foreign. It made me laugh. Not necessarily because of the racism, but it was like that small town, being able to joke around about literally everything. Nobody gets offended. But again, I thought it was very smart writing. The last little Easter egg here in Riley's old room, there's an X-Files poster there. Annabeth Gish, who plays Dr. Gunning, who we saw earlier in this set of scenes, was in the X-Files for 2 seasons. So kind of like if I made a movie that had Manu Bennett in it, I'd definitely have a Spartacus poster on the wall. So I get it, Flanny. More character building in this, and I'm here for it. I don't think you need to have Erin pregnant, for instance, but I think it adds something to her character that wouldn't be there had you not. And, losing the faith for Riley, I think it's very easy to relate by pretty much anyone.
Yeah. You mentioned the island being a character. It is the first thing I have here. The ferry ride over, and kind of, it's gray. It's overcast. In the sky, it's ominous, but the town is gray. The lack of color was very noticeable to me, which is why in some later sets of scenes, when you get people wearing color like the green and gold robes here, they definitely pop. They definitely stand out because the whole island is basically just this blah feel to it. Even on the sunny day at the festival later on. But anyway, I like how it's pretty much always overcast. It adds to the mood and atmosphere I talk about all the time. And I'm not gonna lie, Riley, to me, I like Riley and I like his arc, but he takes the wrong approach here. I would personally, the first thing I would have done is ask Dad if he needs help on the boat. I need to stay busy. I need to, contribute because I have to live here. I have no choice. I have nowhere else to go. Given my circumstances, I would have asked Dad if he needed help right away. And I like that we get this groundwork from Bev here where Monsignor Pruitt not on the boat. That's interesting. Let's see how that pays off. And I just hate Bev, man. I cannot wait for Nico and Dustin. Oh, wait. So Dustin already seen it. So Nico, I can't wait till you see where this goes for her character. I'm going to bite my tongue for now, but I'm excited to see your reaction to the evolution of Bev, the character. This is, I know I'm going to get, gavelled here, but it's a handsome sheriff for this shithole of a place. I mean, all of a sudden he ends up here and I don't know, man. I just feel like he looks out of place. I think that's purposely done, and they kind of touch on it in another episode. You mentioned Joe, just a great character, right? I mean, I mentioned it in my open, probably one of my favorite characters ever written. And Robert Longstreet is a great actor. You mentioned Mr. Dudley in Hill House, but also Lonnie Elam in Halloween Kills. He's fucking great as Lonnie in that movie too. Honestly, he kind of steals the show as far as those characters they bring back from 78. He wasn't one of the more publicized ones, right? But he was one of the most effective ones, in my opinion. I thought he was great there. And I do like that we get an idea that dogs know when people are evil or people suck. So that dog, if he was snarling or snapping at Bev, she freaking deserved it. Trust me. I feel bad for Annie in this scene here. It would be really hard to almost, to live here your whole life and not be anywhere else and watch it go to shit like this, watch it go down. It would be tough. And Riley's pretty dismissive. And I like that we get a scene here in a little bit where Ed pretty much tells them to stop being dismissive. You're lucky to be here. And Bev's a bitch in the shelter scene, in my opinion. Just, again, I like this, this scene where the town kind of banters. That's how small this is. This is like the town committee. You have the sheriff and Bev and Aaron and a couple other people, and they're making all the, calls for the town. It's interesting. Ed is right, though, at this dinner scene. I'm not saying he can't laugh and have jokes. I'm not, because that's not fair, and he served his time and did his punishment, and he doesn't mean he can't live and laugh and love and all those Hobby Lobby sign things. But in this moment with his mom at the table making these altar boy jokes and, jokes about, Monsignor Pruitt, all that stuff, it's really uncalled for. I'm not going to lie. He's fresh. He's fresh out the pen. He's been there a while, and everyone knows what he did. And I like that his dad called him out on it. Walk a little bit more of a tightrope for now, right? And yeah, you're coming to church with us, because if you don't, you're going to upset your mom, and your mom's the only reason you live in this house. So again, you do have to kind of do what you got to do to get by for a while. Last thing, when this scene flashes up with Bev, I was hoping they'd kill her. That's all I'm going to say. Fuck Bev. You know what? You guys have your worst people in TV shows. Bev is mine. Fuck Bev. She sucks.
Skylar White, Peggy Hill, Maggie Hart. Anyway,
We found some agreement in Peggy Hill, brother. That's not going
Peggy Hill.
to.
They're all females for some reason.
No, we were going over the females we hate, not the characters, like just the
No,
top
just
women.
characters in general. Just
Oh,
characters
well,
in
I
general.
was going top women.
I mean, if there's a coincidence there, so be it. I know Riley had to be dreading going back home. Only 127 people on this island. I mean, and we get that. I think he said he was in Chicago before this. So going from that bustling scene to 127 people on the island, prospects can't be great for some loving, if you know what I mean. That's rough. And on top of that, the welcome wagon didn't exactly show up. So yeah, that's tough. Good groundwork laid here. Hearing that someone else who was supposed to be on the ferry wasn't, Monsignor is missing. Now, when we see Mrs. Gunning, the mama, I rolled my eyes so hard, almost sprained my neck. That was very clearly a young actress playing an old lady. Mama from Mama's Family was more convincing, so big issue with that. It's also established that Bev is a real pain. First, the way she acted at the dock, and then with Joe and his dog. What a peach she is. Yeah, I agree. She sucks. Joe continually calling the sheriff Sharif was wild. Like, they don't strike me as having the kind of buddy-buddy friendship that you can joke like that. And then I looked, because I was like, well, maybe his name is Sharif, because he does it through the whole show. But no, IMDb just has him listed as Sheriff Hassan. So I think that was just him being racist. Good little backstory here about the island given by Mom. Again, not lingering on anything, and establishes some more details. And it was very natural since Riley had been gone for so long. Makes sense that she would kind of bring him up to speed. Then we get some mystique built in when Bev goes to see the Monsignor. We don't see him or who she sees, and she seems surprised. So definitely builds some intrigue there. And the cat getting got was a good tense moment to end the set of scenes.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I always feel like part 3 breakdown is always the longest. Then part 4, I got nothing. So here we go. Kitty Cat is walking through the trail and arrives at a dead cat corpse, and we hear a twig snap. Poor Orange Kitty gets got, and we cut to another overhead shot of the island. Ed checks in on Riley and tells him Mama has been going to Mass every day for Riley. Riley sends condolences to Dad over the toughness of their situation since the spill. Ed tells Riley to sit back during communion since he hasn't been to confession. It wouldn't be respectful. Ed goes to show affection to his son, but he's like Ricky Bobby and Brendan all at the same time, not knowing what to do with his hands or hug. Sheriff and I almost said Ali. Sheriff and Ali say their prayers, and Ali is told no phone and to kiss his mother's picture. Dr. Sarah enjoys a hot beverage and helps her mom down the stairs into bed. Riley looks out the window and sees his brother sneaking out. They make eye contact and share an awkward wave. Riley is haunted yet again by the visual of the victim from the car crash. He has nightmares being out at sea alone in the rowboat as the music stops and beautiful sunrise over the island. Ed warns of the red skies in the morning as Warren helps prepare the communion. Riley and Aaron share a stare as Bev welcomes into service and they sing a hymnal. They're caught off guard as a new priest walks in. He goes to the pulpit and introduces himself, Father Paul. He tells them the Monsignor is ill and recovering in the hospital on the mainland. He assures them that they aren't losing their pastor. He leads communion and the church members walk up and participate. Riley stays back, disappointing his mother. Father Paul chats up all the church members leaving service and brings up Riley not participating in communion. Paul preaches to Riley, saying people not in a state of grace were Jesus' favorites. Aaron is a bit smitten seeing Riley, and he asks to walk her home as Bev notices. They make small talk of where she went, and Aaron says she bounced all over the country before New York. She jokes about them coming back to where they never wanted to come back. He tells her he's not married, and she is technically, but it's a long story. Aaron says church has been good for her, and notice he sat back for communion. Riley tells her he read all the different religions' books, and he came out of jail an atheist. Aaron says her baby saved her life. And the next set of scenes is the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
All right, we find out here about who the mystery man was, who, arrived with that chest, and that it was Father Paul. This character's so integral to this show, and Hamish Linklater is so fucking good in this role. He was nominated for a Critics' Choice Award for it, so I can't overstate how good he is. The congregation seems very accepting of Father Paul, but you kind of get that feeling, that literally any change to the normal tedious routine, for lack of a better word, to the island is very welcomed. But I love that Father Paul brings this air of mystery to this. I mean, you're questioning everything about this guy, and I love that. We don't know, as an audience, any of these people, and we just accept what we're given. But with Father Paul, we are immediately skeptical, and I think that's great writing. It's not necessarily the characters who are skeptical, it's us. And also to add to the foreboding of this episode, we get this fucking storm coming too. I mean, the imagery of everyone boarding up their windows, I mean, all too familiar to us Floridians who have dealt with hurricanes our whole life. But I think it just adds to this suspenseful feeling, again, very similar, at least to me. It makes me think of 30 Days of Night. That adds to the movie as well.
Look, I don't like cats, but I don't want them dead. Seeing that was not great. That was unsettling. Super awkward conversation with dad and son here. And again, like I mentioned in my last, breakdown here, I don't really blame Ed either, right? I mean, it would take time to fully forgive anyone that was in this situation. Now, again, I would probably be a little more welcoming than Ed, me personally. But again, he's an old school guy. He's, worked with his hands for a living. He's, he works on the boat. And again, just what happened, that situation will be lingering over them for a while. And I understand. And then we get this awkward hug handshake here after he, kind of tells them off, hey, you're going to church. You're not going to take communion. If you're going to live here, you're going to kind of follow some rules. And I understand that. Just given the situation, right? Man has not been in this room since Seven was popular, because the man had a Seven poster on the wall, which shout out to a 10 out of 10 movie, by the way. Seven is great. I love, and they do this a couple times in this show. They pretty much do it throughout the whole show, where they have a scene that plays and it's a hymn playing, or like a hymnal being sung in the background. And I love that. I love these transitions where we get that. It just kind of shows you what everyone else is doing. And I like that they're adding different faiths, right? I mean, we have obviously that pretty strong, Catholic presence there. It's again at St. Patrick's, and it's kind of the focal point of the show. But we also get the representation of Islam from Sheriff Hassan and how he stands firm in his faith. And I like that. Like, again, we get a lot more on that later in the show. But for now, I think, kind of introducing to us, the sheriff is here. He's definitely at some point going to be at odds because of his faith. And I like to kind of set it up there. Kate Siegel. I get it, Mike Flanagan. I do, buddy. I understand. I don't blame you one bit, brother. Shout out to you. Congratulations. Look, Bev being in that church would make lightning strike that place. So I might want to get out of there if I were everyone else. I like this kind of dry introduction of Father Paul. We're meeting him the same time that everyone in this church is meeting him for the first time. I really like that. We didn't see anything before except that chest. And so, again, we have this new, handsome, pastor here. We don't know exactly what's going on, but we know that he's replaced the guy that we've never met, right? And it's so different watching this one back, knowing where all these characters end up, right? Because we get interactions with Father Paul and the town here and its characters, like the mayor and his family, which now we all know because it's in the first 2 episodes, but like knowing where that goes is very interesting. This state of grace plea that he had, I thought was a really powerful scene, right? I mean, he kind of hits Riley where it hurts, and that doubt, that lack of belief, where that comes from with Riley is totally understandable. It's even joked about, hey, most people go to prison, they find religion. You went to prison and lost it all because you read it all. And so when you have nothing but time on your hands, yeah, you're going to run out a bunch of books at the library and read them all. And okay, you came to this conclusion. And so that lack of faith, especially with what happened with your accident, right? What ended up being the result of that would make anyone lose their faith. So again, I understand it. And I love these scenes with Riley and Aaron. Great on-screen chemistry, in my opinion. Those two characters go really well together. I love learning more about them like this. And I like that their characters swap places. Now he's an atheist and she's in church, and, he was an altar boy. So again, just really good stuff. The storm scene is great, very intense. And I like that we get this delusion that Riley is chasing Monsignor Pruitt down the beach. Again, all really good stuff. Sorry for that's the most I have in both in both episodes.
Yeah, I guess I misspoke. The cat got here, not the last set of scenes. Either way, it was really well done. Very awkward goodnight from Ed to Riley. Good way to show just how strained their relationship is. And we get a good look around town afterwards, seeing the sheriff's home life and seeing the Gunning's home life. And then Riley seeing Warren sneak out before, his little night vision again, which is haunting. Seeing the altar boys being kind of confused when the door opens and then the congregation being thrown off is a nice touch to continue building suspense about who this mystery man is before we hear. When the Scarboroughs walked out of church, Wade gave the priest, the Monsignor, a left-handed handshake. What a weirdo. I wouldn't have shook it. I don't do left-handed handshakes. What is that about? I like seeing Riley and Aaron catching up here. The look on her face when Riley said covered bridges. That was great nonverbal acting from Kate Siegel. Also, shout out to Riley, man. Remember these things. It's always get your girl back season. Her calling her baby Littlefoot popped me. Shout out to Land Before Time. But I'm ready for the ending.
Yep, shout out to Land Before Time. Bev meets with Father Paul in the church, asking if there's anything else he needs. She asks about his gold chasuble, saying it should be green. She offers her services to find the rest of them, or they can be ordered. She says service was excellent and leaves. Back to Riley and Aaron, who are still talking, catching up. He asks her why she came back here. She deflects, asking how he is. He says he doesn't know, no idea. Riley says he has nothing, no money, no prospects of a job. I just exist now, no purpose at all. She tries to encourage him and apologize to him for what he's been through. She goes inside and Riley walks away. Sheriff is preparing for the storm as we see Annie and Riley boarding up the windows. The storm starts up as we see Father Paul reading the Bible until his power goes out. Mildred panics at the doctor's house as Riley looks out the window, again seeing someone in the field. Riley says he knows Pruitt is out there, but no one else can see him. Riley runs to the Monsignor but falls on the beach. He loses him in the storm but sees a shiny white boat at the end of the beach before turning around. The next day, we see the devastation from the storm. The Flynn's leave to check on the Monsignor and the boat. Riley spots seabirds going crazy on the beach, and they find dead cats everywhere. Brian, that's the ending. What'd you think?
Going back to the last set of scenes, and Mike brought it up, I just wanted to point out how different this character is from what Kate Siegel usually plays. I mean, she's usually that disruptive force like Theo in Hill House, or that, badass in Hush. And this just seems more calm, more motherly, which is exactly the point. Siegel did an interview with Vanity Fair in which she said, quote, "When Midnight Mass came around, I said to him, maybe for the first time in my career, Mike, I have to play this part. I know this woman." Siegel says, quote, "I had just gone through 2 pregnancies and I was dealing with focusing on some trauma in my life that I was working through. And I was like, I think I can bring a certain amount of joy." The actor describes Aaron as someone who, quote, "crawled through broken glass, left an abusive relationship, and ended up back in her tiny hometown, pregnant and soon to face the world." But Siegel felt that could bring something additional, like, quote, "a single ray of sunshine of hope from being at rock bottom." So, just a lot of table setting, a lot of setup in this episode, a lot of questions raised, which again, very familiar to at least Hill House in that regard. So right now we get this table food of feast, and Flanagan keeps bringing in all the fixins. And I love me some fixins with a large variety of sauces and shit. It's from Eastbound and Down, Nico.
We're going to have a lot of fixins.
I do like Eastbound and
You
Down.
gonna clean up them fixins.
I actually don't have a lot here, guys. Unlike the last time, I promise. My first line is "fuck off, Bev." No one else cared about these robes but you dumb whore. Anyway, glad we finally get to hear from Riley a little bit here, right? He's not just kind of, yeah, okay, hey mom, hey dad. Like, we get to hear how he's feeling, and I really love these early talking scenes with him and Aaron. That is some great character establishment that we get, and again, it's just hard not to feel similar-ish to Riley if you were in this situation. Just existing is a deep cut. That's hard, man. That's tough, and I felt it when he. Sorry, had the hiccups. Apparently, I felt it when he said it. I felt that Zach Gilford did a great job delivering that line. I thought it was great, and after this storm, it looked like a fucking bomb went off there. Good Lord, that was crazy. And again, I love a good cliffhanger, so I'm on and ready for the next episode.
Bev calling the Monsignor out on wearing the wrong color robe. That was good. It's because it's this little subtle thing that plants the seeds that something's off with him. Distraction, diversion tactic. I like it. Good stuff with Riley explaining his situation and mental state to Aaron. She's exactly what he needs. Someone who has a connection with him
who genuinely seems to care about him and his future. We could all use someone like that. Showing the community preparing for the storm was well done too. Just brief scenes of different people doing different things to prepare. And we see Mrs. Gunning freaking out, and then Riley seeing Monsignor Pruitt wondering about. That was wild. Crazy old coot. Man's got some wheels for his age. I'll give him that. He was moving. Then I know Nico was salivating seeing all those dead cats on the shore. Very ominous way to end the episode. I thought it was a good episode, but not great. Just a lot of establishing. I gave it a 7.5.
Zach Gilford actually missed the birth of his son while filming this series, as travel was not permitted between the USA and Canada without severe quarantine restrictions, as this was back during COVID days. He only met his offspring for the first time when his boy was 6 weeks old. Crazy fucking time that was. And I kind of touched on this in my open, but Mike Flanagan originally conceived this as a novel and then a feature film before finally settling on the idea of doing this miniseries.
All right, guys, any final thoughts on episode 1 before we jump into episode 2? All right,
Lots
Dustin,
of
whenever.
fiexence.
Not a fiexence. All right, I'm doing this set of scenes, so bear with me. Episode 2, Book 2, Psalms, which is incorrect. Psalms is actually the 19th book of the Bible. But anyway, we open with a look at the slaughtered cats on the shore, and the mayor disregards the sheriff's request to stay off the shoreline. The mayor tells the sheriff about how back in 2002, a whole flock of starlings fell out of the sky, and they never did get a solid answer as to why it happened. They confirmed there's no oil involved, but the cat they inspected has a broken neck, and there's no blood anywhere. The mayor speculates that it could be the work of Baby Shark. Anyway, the sheriff's son shows up with a gas can, and the plan is to burn all the cats to eliminate the threat of disease. The mayor invites the sheriff to mass despite the difference in religions, and the duo meets up with Riley and Ed. And when Ed says Riley saw Monsignor Pruitt on the beach last night, suddenly Riley isn't so sure what he saw. Riley makes his exit when he sees Aaron approaching, and Riley apologizes for unloading his problems on her the night before. She says it's fine, and now he's found his purpose, cat disposal. He starts to tell her about seeing Pruitt, but changes his mind and then tells her he's got to go to the mainland for a meeting. As he heads out to the ferry, we see Monsignor Paul leading Mass, and he's found his green robe now. After Mass, Lisa and Paul take a stroll, and they see Joe with his dog. Lisa freezes in her tracks, and it's awkward for a bit before she says she's fine. Next, we see Erin cleaning up in her classroom before she finds Bev in the cleaning closet, and we find out Bev is a severe tightwad, and we find out this island is my worst nightmare. They have a rat infestation. Afterwards, Monsignor Paul goes to pay Sarah Gunning a visit because he heard old Mrs. Gunning never misses a mass. That's the open. What you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely learning a lot more about the characters here. We're starting to ratchet up the tension in this episode. You know, everything from the growing mysteries about Father Paul and the tensions there. Plus, we have a monster on the island somewhere eating cats that Dustin called Asian Nico last episode. Tasteless, honestly. Can't believe that. But truthfully, holy shit at this opening shot. Like 8-minute long handheld one shot with everybody examining these cats on the beach. You know, literally lasts almost 8 fucking minutes. And you know I'm a sucker for one shots. You know, I don't think this necessarily outdoes Flanagan's 17-minute one shot in episode 6 of Hill House, but anytime one is done, it's stand out to me. It's very impressive. Although Mayor Wade is one annoying motherfucker. Like, Jesus Christ, Ned Flanders. I wanted to tell him to shut the fuck up at least 10 times. I was so thankful when Riley walked off towards Aaron and we followed him. And, you know, last thing, Bev Keane, you know, almost a dark underlying something to her character you can't really put a finger on just yet. I mean, I called her a Karen in episode 1. Mike called her much, much worse. And she is, you know, but I think the writing and the way Sloyan is portraying her, I mean, she definitely seems to have something darker underneath that bitchy first layer, you know, aside from just being that bitch. Honestly, I can't remember if she does. I honestly cannot. So, but it makes me excited to unravel that layered onion with everyone else for the first time.
Oh, buddy. Okay. Man, all these cats like washing up on the beach would be fucking terrifying, right? Like, you just saw this long string of cats. Like, what the fuck? And again, it would be something, you know, if that happened, it would be one of the few things ever that make me like kind of stop in my tracks. Is there fucking ghosts around here? Like what is that? Like, and you guys know how I am with that stuff. Like, nah, I'm not really buying it. With this, I'm like, well, something spooky has happened here. No animal is taking out all these fucking cats. Anyway, and again, just your regular old fuck off, Bev. I have to include that here because, again, she's being annoying and demanding as always. This island, as much as I like it as a character, one, we get the sun for the first time, which is interesting. It looks like an unlivable ass island, though, bro. Like, I would not want to fucking live here. Good Lord, this looks like Mayberry, but worse. So, not going to happen there. Again, why would Sheriff Hassan pick up the cat? I know he has gloves on, but I'm not touching shit, pal. And the fact that the mayor mentions that that freaking sharks or baby sharks did this, like, all right, man, sure. You know, I don't like how the mayor, talks to the sheriff here about him appearing at their church. I mean, the man is allowed to have his own faith. This is still, Crockett Island is still United States of America. He's allowed, freedom of religion. And him kind of warming up to the town by showing up at church. I mean, I guess, but I mean, that's not cool. Like, again, I know he's new there, but I don't know. I just hate those kind of interactions is all. I will say Riley should be at least a little more fake nice, right? Like, you could fake the fact that you're thankful. You could fake the fact you fake being nice. Like, you could do something. Like, you don't have to be this person all the time. Now, obviously the guy's struggling for good reasons. So I'm not downplaying that, but there are situations where you got to kind of fake it till you make it, man. It's just the way it is. And I like how my man, Father Paul, found that green robe. He found that green robe with the quickness. He knew, he's like, I gotta find that thing. I see it. Man, having to go all the way into the mainland for AA would be something. It would really stick with me because, God, I wouldn't want to go back. If I were Riley, like, I'd want to just stay on the mainland and figure it out. That would be tough. Again, we get another one of these scenes where there's a hymn being sung, and they're swapping back and forth between different stuff. Really like that, back and forth between the Bible study and the AA meeting. I thought was really well done. And you get this little tease, and I have a problem with it later. It's one of the small nitpicks I have. Get a little tease here with Joe and Lisa. This kind of eye contact, awkwardness, but we don't know quite what that was about, right? Like, I like that tease. I have a complaint about it later, though. The last thing I have is my mind would just not go to these cats being killed by an animal. This is not what I would think. Not this long stretch of beach where a bunch of cats washed up. Like, I don't care what you believe in. Something funky has happened here that's not a fucking animal taking them out. Well, could you imagine an animal taking out a bunch of cats and lying them out one by one by one? Only a sick fuck would do that. Sorry, Nico.
What are you apologizing to me for? I didn't do it.
Oh, sorry. I thought you did. My bad, brother.
Anywho, I may lose some man points here, but I like cats. I'm pretty sad starting this episode off seeing all these dead cats all over the beach. Brian, you mentioned it. The camera work is a huge standout as a sheriff and the mayor talk. Mike Flanagan and cinematographer Michael Femignari, I think is how you say his name, somehow make a scene with two guys talking on a beach visually stunning. It was incredible. It was very noticeable, very fast. It's very strange that there's no blood at all from the cats on the beach. Like you mentioned, Mike, what could cause this? Nothing logically makes sense. And what the hell is the mayor thinking? What else is he supposed to do to all these cat corpses? I think burning them makes complete sense to me. I like how the sheriff completely ignores the mayor trying to recruit him to mass. He just like, nope, on to the next subject. Mayor, like the politician he is, tells the same story to the Flynn men as soon as he walks up, like the story he just told. Real talk, though, how does an island get a population of stray cats like this? Like, make that make sense to me. Like, where'd all these cats come from? Good review talk here, but being on that ferry on that giant body of water would terrify me. I know it's probably ironic considering I love fishing, but I am scared of the water, especially the ocean. Quick shot of Bev's face, and like Mike, you kind of mentioned it, I have my eye on her. She gives me a very off vibe, like she's got something sinister going on. Seeing Aaron in class, why did I think of Kevin Hart with his teacher, Miss Green? I'll stop there. I'm not going to go any further. If you know the joke, you know the joke. Bev is annoying. Give her the damn Windex and stop preaching at me, lady. I'm sure Paul has a dark secret to be revealed as well, but I think it's considerate he made an in-home visit for Mildred. That's all I got. Go ahead, Dustin.
Sarah tells her mom someone is here to see her, and the crazy old lady thinks it's Monsignor Pruitt, but it's Paul. He tells her he came to celebrate Mass with her and brings out his holy travel kit. Sarah retreats to her home office while the other two get their praise on. and we see Riley is on his way back. He tries to walk by Aaron without speaking, but she's not letting that fly. They have an impromptu Shark Tank episode, which shout out to that because I love that show. Shark Tank is great. I would always take Damon or Mark Cuban's deal. That's just me. Anyway, back on track. His mom pricks her finger while sewing and is confused when she can see better without her glasses than with them. That night, Riley lays in bed and he has another one of his night terrors when he sees the girl from the wreck and then is in a rowboat at sea, and then he sees Monsignor Pruitt running on the beach. Afterwards, we get a flying shot over the island before seeing Warren's body get spooked, and the flying whatever it is swoops down into an old house. The next morning, the crowd starts piling into the church for Ash Wednesday, and Paul lectures the congregation about not attending church every Sunday, and Buddy had that fire. This is honestly one of the better sermon scenes I've seen in TV or film. Riley's mom persuades him to take part today, since it's not sacrament, and afterwards, the community is having a nice potluck, but it appears Joe and his dog aren't welcome, as they catch some side eyes from everyone. Sarah meets with a lady, and it's their second date, and her date tells Sarah that she's got to get out of here, but Sarah can't leave her mom. Their lady loving draws the attention of Paul, who later joins Riley on a bench. Paul tells Riley that Pruitt is doing better, and Riley tells him he swears he saw Pruitt the other night. Paul says he spoke to him that night on the phone, and he tells Riley Pruitt isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Paul tells Riley he can start an AA chapter here so Riley doesn't have to waste the whole day traveling, and we hear that Joe is the reason Lisa is in the chair, which explains the town's judgmental glares. Aaron interrupts their chat and saves Riley from Paul, who tells Riley to think about it and no hard feelings either way. What do you guys think?
So I absolutely love this interaction here with Riley and Aaron. I think Kate and Zach absolutely kill it. I mean, the whole pitch routine, these two are fantastic actors that feel very natural, especially with the chemistry between the two of them. But then Riley laying down and asking the Tara Beth vision how her day was, gut-wrenching, man. But I loved every second of it. Another quick shot worth mentioning, Dustin talked about it, there's like this amazing overhead drone shot maybe, or helicopter shot of whatever it is, and you see the island and the flying from the perspective of whatever the hell that thing is. Very Lost Boys-esque. I said drone, but like I said, it could be a miniature too with a touch of CG. So either way, I loved it. Riley's character arc, again, that whole Flanagan touch and theme of addiction that is always prevalent in pretty much everything that he does. And Riley's arc is pretty entwined with Father Paul in this episode. I mean, we heard last episode about him really having no purpose to life, just in a very depressed state, which is definitely understandable. But is Father Paul genuine? Is he pure? We just don't know yet. Is he just trying to bond with Riley? And is that why he wanted to set up the AA meeting? Or does he just not want him leaving the island? All these questions definitely need answered, but I love the arc and the development there in this episode. And again, just masterclass acting from Hamish, and just a massive revelation that Lisa was accidentally shot by Mr. Dudley. Much better than what went through my mind the first time when the two ran into each other. I was worried about molestation, to be honest, but still, damn, Joe, holy shit. No wonder he left the island and moved next to Hill House. Another great set of scenes.
First of all, I'm guessing it was Dustin that wrote the scene-by-scene breakdown here. Why she gotta be an old hag, man? Come on. Come on, man. Man, come on. Miss Gunning's a nice lady. Anyway,
she's also not old, which I'm telling you, it really
she's old
bothers
in
me.
the damn show. Come on.
I know. They couldn't find a old lady to actually play that role. It really bothers me, man.
Do you not remember how the show goes?
No, I don't.
There's a good reason for that. There's a good reason for it. Anyway,
okay.
I do love this scene though. When Father Paul pulls up and doesn't let her miss mass. It's touching for now, right? For now it's touching. Still not everything passed the sniff test, but I actually really like that scene a lot. Another great interaction with Riley and Aaron. Their conversations are kind of the heart of the show, right? I mean, their back and forth is really the lifeblood of what this show is about. I will say Ed and Annie have some bangers on vinyl there, man. man, they got some good music playing in 2 different episodes now, so good for them. This recurring nightmare would be so devastating. Like, I just can't imagine having this same dream and vision every single night like Riley does. It would be absolutely heartbreaking. I can't imagine. I will say, I'm not you mentioned the drone work or however they pulled that off, and I think I'm going to be alone in this Jon Snow style, but I'm not a fan of that shot, and I think it's because everything so far to me has felt real and grounded, and obviously shit doesn't stay that way, and I understand that. But as far as the shots, the way the show has been done, this one's the first one that felt like, why are they doing this? Like, it's cool visually. I'm not saying it's not cool visually. I just don't think it fit aesthetically. But again, it's a nitpick. It's not a big deal. Just something I'm not a massive fan of. I do like that Father Paul calls these Lent people out of the church like January gym people. Like, hey, what's up, guys? Nice seeing you back here. Like, he didn't say that, but that's exactly what he meant. You know, the January gym people, all you people clogging up the gym. So I got a home gym now because I'm rich. Anyway, man,
Clip that.
I live in an apartment. Please calm down. Man, this sermon, I will say, this sermon from Paul is actually great. I wish the old ones I had to attend were that short also, because they weren't ever. Guy, by the way, Catholic church service goes on a really long time, guys. I don't know if you know that. Never had any real issue wearing the cross on my head. I understand it was for Lent, ash and all that. I will say this. I love this festival, though. Reminds me of my hometown. Like, we have little things like this all the time. Very cool. And it's like one of the last times the sun's out in this whole show. Like, shit's about to get dark here coming up at episode 3 and 4. So it's one of the last times everyone kind of sees each other in the sun. Last thing I have here, and I mentioned it in the last set of scenes. I don't like that this is the reveal of the hunting accident. I felt like that could have and should have been a bigger moment for me personally. It's not that it's not taken seriously or anything, but I felt like their interaction, one, needed to be confronting each other, Joe and Lisa, but it felt lackluster. It was just kind of put there, and it was never real. It wasn't really emphasized. And I wish I would have had that emphasized, but that's a personal preference. I just didn't like how it was kind of casually dropped in conversation why Joe is the way that he is. So, but that's all.
Yeah, I got a decent amount on part 2, but 3 and 4 I don't have that much on. But it's funny you mentioned this, Brian, because I wrote kind of the same thing down as well. After looking at the Internet Movie Database, I was quite shocked to find out Alex Esso, a much younger woman, is portraying Mildred. I'm a big fan of her indie horror flick. I know you brought up some of her other movies with Flanagan, but I'm a big fan of her indie horror flick called Starry Eyes. It's on my list to pick for the movie show. I think y'all might not like it. It kind of deals with Satan kind of stuff, but I thought she was really good in it. Just based on these two folks' interactions, I can't help but feel a romance is in the works between Riley and Aaron, and I wrote that down before I realized that they did used to have a romance. But just my opinion, the flame still seems to be there for them. Riley, you can tell, is tired of being asked how his day is. I get that too. It's it's the same shit, it's different day. I stop asking how my day is. It's just small talk. You don't really care. Let's just move on. You can see in his eyes as he lays in bed, he feels empty and stays haunted by the person he killed in the wreck. I love the 7 poster. I'm curious if the 7 deadly sins will intertwine this season. Y'all don't need to spoil that, but I'm just curious. And I'm intrigued by the flying creature POV of the island. Is this show some type of monster or creature feature thing on top of the religion aspect as well? Very bold of the temporary pastor asking the crowd why they aren't there every week. I mean, I respect it, honestly, but it's kind of brave of him. I'm not familiar with Hamish Linklater's, I think that's how you say his name, game, but I'm impressed with his ability to give a sermon, and he has an interesting presence on screen. I think he's doing a great job. It's also quite impressive Paul has learned all these church members' names in such a short time. Could not be me. I struggle to learn people's names. It takes me quite a while. I chuckled for some reason when Paul sat on the bench with that goofy look and the sigh. Bro has to be a dad in real life. This is the last thing I got. Not sure how I feel about Paul. He seems like he has a lot of good intentions, but I'm suspicious. He knows too much to have only been there for such a short notice.
Riley and Aaron take a stroll, and Aaron comments on how they used to want drink tickets to feel like adults, and now they're adults with drink tickets, and neither one of them can drink. And we hear that her mom was a rough one. Riley gives her some nice words of encouragement, but the moment is broken up by Joe crying out over his dog. Pike is down, and there's a pool of blood and bile coming from his mouth. Joe asks who did it, but no one says a word. The sheriff checks on him, and Joe says Pike was poisoned. Sarah steps in to check on the dog and suggests it was an accident. When Joe scoffs at the idea, the air is thick with tension as we see Lisa and her parents looking on. The next morning at the Flynn's house, Riley wakes up early and offers his help on the boat with his dad. Mass is back to normal, aka empty, and the Flynn's catch crabs, but in the good way, the way they want. At the school, Bev is putting supplies away when the sheriff pays her a visit to talk about the dog. He mentions the rat poison she was using previously, and she confirmed that she put some out after the cat deaths. He asks if anyone else has access to the chemicals, and she says yes, everyone does. They're the whole islands. And she says that she should lock them up. At Joe's, Bowl is helping, his name is Bowl, is helping out with Joe's generator when the sheriff shows up and asks what he's doing there and implies that he suspects it's for a drug deal. After Joe de-escalates the situation, Bowl splits and the sheriff says Bev denies any wrongdoing. Joe figures this is how it would go and says just to forget about it. The sheriff says he knows he isn't wrong about Bev. Next, we see Riley and Paul at their one-on-one AA meeting, and it is awkward. Riley wants to talk about how Bev wants the people to take the settlement money from the oil company. People took the money, gave a chunk of it to the church, and with Pruitt gone, that means it went to her, and she built the rec center. Paul wants to talk about Riley's lapse in faith, but Riley's not interested. He talks about a recovery program that's not faith-based, but Paul steers the conversation back and regains control. Good sparring session here. Riley gives a good speech about his demons and shows disdain for feeling like God just lets all the bad stuff happen to him. Paul counters by saying that God can take all of our works and use them for the better, and the next set of scenes is the ending.
Yeah, this walk and talk with Riley and Aaron. Once again, I find myself on this podcast. Again, don't go out there, professional podcasting service. But once again, I find myself asking, why the fuck can't you just put water in the goddamn cups? Don't even have to take a sip, but it's empty, and I'm offended you expect me to believe that it's not. Offended, I say. Another big revelation, though, at the party, someone poisoned Pike. I mean, fuck. I know we don't do least favorite kill in the series over here in the west wing of Mike's house where we record, but go ahead and chalk me up for at least favorite death or least favorite death for the puppy here. Just wanted a fucking hot dog. I truthfully cannot remember who is behind this, but right now, it's got to be Bev Keane, right? And this stupid bitch. Do you have to show the dog as well, Flanny? Come on, man. But what a great scene with Keane here with Sheriff Hassan again. Sloyan absolutely kills it. Red herring or not, she plays it like a guilty person, does a damn good job at it. And Bull, I'm sorry. I can also relate. I was also born woefully fucking unfunny. That scene made me laugh, though. Go ahead.
Well, can't wait till you guys find out who did the dog stuff. Anyway, these two have great on-screen chemistry. Again, this walk and talk is great. They're always good, always worth paying attention to because they're explaining their backstory a lot, and I really thought it was great. Fucking asshole, whoever poisoned this dog, I know who it is. Whoever poisoned this dog is the worst piece of shit. I can't fucking... God, it's a sad scene with this dog, man. Just wanted to eat a little hot dog or something, man. Come on. I'm not going to lie, though. Riley should have been doing this boat stuff, helping out his dad from the start, like I mentioned in my open. Would have been one of the first things I offered to do. So I am glad to see him doing it. Again, it makes his, days useful and helps out his family, and I think that's a good thing. Again, we get a lot of this squeezing stuff in when hymns are playing. Yet again, I like it. I liked it, the sheriff on Bev's ass here, though. But I will say, got to give Bev credit writing-wise anyway. Bev's fucking with Sheriff here, bro. Like, she is playing in his face. She knows exactly what she did. And she is absolutely throwing it in his face as in, like, oh, could have been this, could have been that. That would be the worst thing ever. Could you imagine that would be the worst thing? Okay, Bev, you're all right. We get it. You're smug. Gotcha. Again, love the character of Joe. just the town drunk and people treat him like shit. He's made some mistakes, obviously, big ones, but he has a good heart, and that it comes across later in the series here. I will say, now that I'm doing AA here with Father Paul, no more ferry trips. I would miss that little bit of freedom that I get to go across and do AA. I would rather do that, I think, personally. That's just me. I really like the cynicism in which Riley speaks with here. It's not like he's not making good points, right? His tone is unfortunate, I think, but it's not like he's not saying stuff that we've all felt, and his is amplified, 10 times because of the situation that he's been through. And I think that cynicism, again, comes across really well. This is a masterclass of a scene here to me. This talking back and forth between these two actors, they do a great job conveying the right emotions. Father Paul stays calm, but says a lot of stuff with heavy weight. I just love this scene. It's all dialogue. It's fantastic. And then you close it with this monologue from Riley that Zach Gilford does a great job delivering, right? His lack of faith and the reasonings why, I think, are understandable. And he kind of he's nice enough to Father Paul. He doesn't, treat him poorly, but he pretty much tells him, this is how I'm feeling and this is how I'm going to feel. Go ahead, Nico.
Yeah, I think you guys mentioned it as well, but I got a little chuckle with Aaron joking about the drink tickets and not being able to drink anymore. And what the heck happened to this dog so suddenly? I automatically blame Bev for the incident she's had and having that chemical from the school. So I kind of felt like it was pretty obvious it was her. And Mike, I think you mentioned this already as well. Shout out to Robert Longstreet as Joe, making his 4th appearance on the show. Haunting of Hill House, Dr. Sleep, Halloween Kills, and now this. I like how the show has used hymns in between scene cuts as well. It puts you in that religious mood. I know you mentioned that, Mike, too. I like that as well. Good to see Riley wanting to help, use his time efficiently, feel productive, do something with himself. It's not good to just lay in bed when you're not happy with life because it's just not productive for you. Bev is slick with her storytelling. You can tell she doesn't care at all about this dog. Maybe I'm reaching here, but she kind of gives me some Lou Bloom vibes. She just does not care. Got another chuckle from Joe saying his friend was born woefully unfunny. I thought that scene was really funny, honestly. I do agree suffering can be turned into a gift, but man, you do not want to hear that while you're going through that suffering. And I also hear where Riley is coming from. If God is real, he can wipe away suffering. However, that takes away free will from everyone, so kind of a slippery slope there, in my opinion. And this is the last thing I got, Dustin. This was a heavy conversation that I thought was well acted by both men.
All right, here's the finale. Erin is scrapbooking her little heart out and finds old pictures of her and Riley when she hears a thud on the roof, then another. She looks concerned, but not enough to spring into action. She takes her time getting up, and when she looks out the window, we see glowing eyes to the left of the screen, and the figure runs out of sight. Later, she's douche-dropping, apparently, and she looks out the window, and she's clearly shaken up a bit. And we see blood in her panties, so she rushes to visit Dr. Sarah. We hear everything is okay with the baby, which is a relief, and Sarah heads to bed when Erin leaves, and her kooky mom screams bloody murder to give us a good old heart attack. She thought she saw Sarah's dad out the window. We see Bull wandering down the road when the door of the old house that the flying entity flew into earlier creaks open. He calls out, and his words are repeated in his voice, so naturally he has to go inside and check it out, dummy. We see a Gollum-like fellow with glowing eyes crawling in the doorway of a room before it lunges at Bull, sending his hat flying outside, and then the door closes. At church the next day, Bev reads my favorite Bible chapter, Psalms 27. I've got it tattooed on my forearm. Then Paul pulls a nasty stunt. He tries to get Lisa to walk to get her sacrament, despite her being confined to the chair. But hey, miracles do happen. It works. She stands up and she walks. The congregation is awestruck, and the episode ends. What'd you guys think?
Yeah, great ending with Bull being lured into that house, but mostly just that insane moment with Lisa getting up. I mean, it was crazy at first because you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you just being a dick or what? Then she gets up. All this does is just further deepen the mystery with everything going on with Father Paul and what the fuck is going on in this town. Insane way to end, especially with the close-up of his face and then cutting to hers. Body of Christ. Amen. Great ending.
Aaron is, like you said, scrapbooking here. Do people still scrapbook? Like, is that a thing? Is that still a hobby? Is that a popular thing? Like, I'm not shitting on it. I'm genuinely curious if people still do scrapbooking.
Fun fact: I have made scrapbooks for two exes, and we're not together anymore. So I had to throw away scrapbooks that I spent an hour making. So they're pointless. Don't do it.
I was gonna say. So what does this teach us, Dustin? We don't scrapbook anymore. That's what that teaches us, buddy. That's a lesson.
We just don't. No, it teaches me don't put my trust in a woman. Go ahead.
Lessons learned, and they sure run deep. That's what I heard. That country song said. Whatever Tracy Lawrence said. Anyway. Ain't no way around it. This world turns. Oh, sorry. Anyway, man, just God, this whole thing would be devastating. And again, if you're fighting, and I mean, Aaron, if you're fighting this blood in your underwear, there, that would be in that moment just so devastating. And I like Dr. Sarah as a character. I learned, I end up growing to like her even more. But you're the only doc in town. You better wake up. There's like 20 people on this island, man. Like, you're kind of it. So you got to kind of do what you got to do. Poor Mrs. Gunning, man. I just feel so awful for her. These like waking up scared, these night terrors are a real thing with people going through dementia. And again, not saying there was nobody outside of her window, but like just that alone would be terrifying. I can't imagine. That once I was echoed back to myself, I'm running away. What does this dumb motherfucker do? Wants to go investigate. I can't stand white people and shit. God damn it. Go run the other direction. You guys are idiots. We get another cliffhanger here with, drug dealer kid being, taken. I know what happens, but again, for now, he's just taken. And, like you mentioned, this is a powerful, powerful ending scene. No pun intended, but holy shit. And the first time I watched it, incredible. I audibly gasped the first time I watched it. I'll never forget it. Me and Catherine both went, oh, whoa. We were not expecting that. And the way it's written and the way it's shot and the music being played, it's all really great stuff. And the fact that Lisa can walk again, something is fishy. Something's not on the up and up here. With Father Paul, he's able to make people walk again. So interesting ending, great cliffhanger. Really thought they'd knock that one out of the park.
Yeah, I thought the use of sound as Aaron is like looking out the window and hearing noises in her house. I thought it was very spooky. It was a great atmosphere. It was tough to see her having problems with her pregnancy. It's got to be terrifying for her being on an island like this with potential major medical issues involving a baby. It's like, we only got one doctor here. I'd be pretty nervous. Mildred screaming Sarah, like you mentioned, Dustin, scared the shit out of me. Like, I was not expecting that. Like, it got me a good pop. What the heck was that creature that just got Bowl? Like, why is this guy's name Bowl, first of all? But what creature got it? Don't spoil it for real, because I am probably going to watch this series this season. But if that's a vampire, I was not expecting that for Midnight Mass. It gave me vampire vibes. Paul giving Lisa quite the stare, isn't he? Is he trying to get a handicapped girl to walk into service? And holy moly, she did it. This is a sight to see. Can you imagine what the parents and the other members were thinking? Because Lisa's parents were like, is this guy being for real right now? We're about to run him out of town. I thought the ending was great. Great acting by everyone involved. The emotion was incredible. I really liked the ending of this one.
Yeah, I like this episode more than the first one. We get more establishing and also deeper dives and stuff starting to unfold. I gave it an 8.25. I really liked it too.
Any fun facts, y'all?
I got one. Okay. This fun fact just kind of goes back to the movie Hush that we reviewed from 2016. Go back and listen. Don'tgooutthere.com. But we point out the fact in that movie that Kate Siegel plays a writer who brings up the characters Riley and Aaron from her latest book and show the cover and its title, Midnight Mass. So this is clearly a story that's been in Flanagan's head for years.
It's also a book in Gerald's Game as well. So it's in that universe. That is, I almost picked it for Thriller Month, not gonna lie. Almost changed my pick at the last second. Yeah.
Hey, any final thoughts on the first episodes of Midnight Mass? I did think they were a little slow, but they were doing a lot of world building. I'm intrigued, and I'm really excited to see where the next 5 episodes go. Any final thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I clearly don't remember it as well as I thought. I just remember liking it, so I'm excited. It's almost like I'm watching it for the first time.
I'm excited
Same.
to watch it unfold for you three. Then that makes me very excited to watch it because I remember it pretty well. Once I locked into that first episode, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, to me, this is the last thing I'll say. To me, this is definitely a show you got to watch. Like, you can't just have it on, like, scroll your phone because I don't know. Because I watched the first 2 episodes and I was like, it's kind of slow. I'm not really that interested. But when I did my notes, I was a lot more invested because I was actually paying attention the whole time and I was seeing where everything was going. So, yeah, I really liked the first episodes. I'm excited to see where it goes. We appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll be back next week.
Go out there,
Jason
professional podcasting service.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, take care of yourself.
Just want to remind everybody,